from the Nestle Purina Petcare company.
Anas, are you sharing your screen?
No, sir, I'm not yet. All right, I'll share it, sir.
Someone should share it. Who else is there?
Do you want me to share my screen now, or do you want to do that later?
Your screen will be later. Before that, they have some customary welcome screen.
Okay, okay, yes. We will wait.
They will welcome you, yes.
Okay, all right, sir. So should I stop? Actually, I also opened it, but I was going to just play it on later, or otherwise, sir, you can also share it. Since I've shared it, I'll just put it on. Are you able to see it?
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. Good.
All right. Before we move on to the formal webinar, I would like to have a brief introduction of Dr. Sangeeta Mukhopadhyay to our audience. Dr. Sangeeta Mukhopadhyay is presently serving as Quality Assurance Manager in the Nestle Purina Petcare company. In the new Ohio factory that is under construction and estimated to be operational in 2024. She moved to Ohio from Iowa, where she worked as Assistant Quality Assurance Manager with Nestle Purina at the Davenport, Iowa factory. Dr. Sangeeta transitioned into the food industry in 2018 after earning her PhD in food engineering from the University of Arkansas. Her PhD was focused on the effects of airflow in industrial cross-flow rice dryers, which is the most common type of rice dryers in the United States. Prior to her PhD, she earned her master's from IIT Kharagpur in 2012 under the guidance of Professor G.C. Majumdar, Professor N Mishra, and late Professor H. Das. Before coming to IIT Kharagpur, Sangeeta worked in intellectual property rights in eValueServe, Gurgaon, which had been her first job after bachelor's from West Bengal University of Technology. So with that, we're all very eager to hear from Dr. Sangeeta Mukhopadhyay, and I would now like to give the floor to her.
Yes. Now, Sangeeta, it is your chance. But before Sangeeta starts, Anas, I will like to make one correction that yes, she was in my project, but for her master's degree, supervisors were Professor Das as well as Professor Majumdar.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much. Let me try to share my screen and then we will get started. My request to you is you will see my email on the first slide. Let's get there first. So you should be able to see my screen right about now. Are you able to see it?
Yes, we are able to see that. Hide the dialog box. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we're in business. So let's get started with this. First of all, thank you very, very much for taking time out of your Saturday evenings. I know you have a lot more interesting things to do, exciting places to go, and hopefully more fun people to meet with. But the fact that you've taken your time out to be here shows commitment to academia and to what you do every day in your lives to pursue. I have put my email address down there, so any of you have any questions or shoot me on that, and I generally try to get back to you 2 days. If I don't, then I'm probably traveling somewhere, but I will get back to you as soon as I can. I put pictures of myself, and that is because I wanted to. Well, no. I wanted to put pictures of myself to show you that this is exactly what we're going to talk about. A career in academia. So pictures before this would be pictures in Dr. Mishra's group, or back in the days when I was in Techno India. This picture here is with my professor, my advisor during my PhD, Dr. Terry Siebenmorgen. The next picture down there is my first job, which was Florida Crystals after my PhD. And then this one is right now my profile picture in Nestle Purina Petcare company. So the transition of how I graduated and then found a job, or, what is it like? Because a lot of times it's very easy to talk about, oh yes, like once you get into school as a kid, you are going to go class 1, class 2, class 3, it goes on. And then you eventually come to those points on, okay, I'm getting this degree, now what am I going to do? That's precisely what we will be talking about. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat box. Anas, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I really do appreciate it. And for all those of you who had joined earlier and heard our conversations between Dr. H. N. Mishra, my parents joined in too. They're super proud, and I am proud that they are proud of me. Okay, so if one of you on the moderator side, if you all find questions in the chat box, you can just interrupt me and tell them. I'll do my best. And if you don't want to do that, we can wait till the end. It's whatever you guys would be comfortable with. Any questions so far?
Ma'am, right now there aren't any in the chat box.
Perfect. Okay, so let's start. So my journey is, as most of you will know, I did my bachelor's from Techno India, and at that time, Techno India was not a university. So we were under the West Bengal University of Technology. And then I got a campus placement when I finished from there, and therefore ended up working in eValueServe. That was my first job after my bachelor's. At that time, believe it or not, I did not want to study anymore. I really wanted a job. I wanted to contribute and earn money, to be very honest. I did not. If you told me at that time, go get a PhD, which my parents told me, and I won't lie to you about it. And I said, no, I want to go and actually find money, earning. So I was there in internet about a year before I realized that I really did miss studying. I took the gate and found this great opportunity that Dr. Mishra gave me. It was a grant from the Department of Biotechnology, and that's how I came back to pursue my master's. Now, once my master's was, towards the end, you start thinking that same question, what next, what next? So for me, that what next was a simple plan. It was, how about I just find somebody and get my PhD at IIT Kharagpur? And I brought this up to Dr. G.C. Majumdar, who has now since retired. So many of you may not know him anymore. You've probably heard of him. Dr. H. N. Mishra, Dr. T.K. Goswami, they were my constant guiding lights, so to say. And then, of course, Dr. H. Das. And most of them told me, you are getting the best education you are getting here. Why don't you try something else? And the biggest person, or the most important person that pushed that, was Dr. G.C. Majumdar. He said, look, you study, first he said, I don't want to take you. And I got offended. I said, what do you mean you don't want to take me? I'm pretty good. You don't think so? And he said, no, that's not the point. I want to retire, and I want you to get your next degree somewhere else. So go take your GRE, figure out your TOEFL, do what you have to do, go somewhere else. So that encouragement led me to find the rice processing program at the University of Arkansas. And that's how I came all the way from India, flew from Kolkata to this university and got my PhD. So that's the year that you see. And then again, the question after that becomes, what am I going to do next? So then I ended up in Florida Crystals, or American Sugar Refining, as a quality auditor. And after a year, I was promoted and I became a quality supervisor. And then very recently, that's back in 2021, I decided to change jobs. And I'll explain more on why I did that. And I started out as an assistant QA manager, and I'm now serving as a quality assurance manager. with that, I want to show you how I moved from that rice processing program at the University of Arkansas to Florida Crystals. So this is where, since most of you are students, I'd like to tell you that all these conferences that you get a chance to go to, it's fine if you miss a couple of lectures, but it is not fine. And I mean, Dr. Mishra sir might just say, don't say this, but I'll still say it. You might miss a couple of lectures, but please don't miss out on connection and networking opportunities. The people who come from the industry spot you, and you never know when you are going to be, or you are being interviewed. Sometimes those interviews are not, your interview is at 10 o'clock in the morning, show up. Sometimes they see you through the work you do. So Florida Crystals had representatives that were part, or that used to attend our rice processing program annual meetings, which is what this left picture shows you, where we all wear our blue shirts and present our research. We also did research only from industry-funded money on industry projects. And so back in the day, this is like more than 2 years before I got the job, or before any of this happened, that I went to their rice mill for a visit. That's the picture on the right. So when I went there, I had absolutely no clue that that would be my first job. Eventually, at ACCI International, on the last year when I was doing my oral presentation, somebody walked up from me, and I knew who he was, from Florida Crystals, and said, hey, when are you going to graduate? We would want you to come work for us in our rice program. So going back to that story, make those connections, make those networks, because they're probably the most important thing and the best thing you can do for your careers. Any questions from the audience so far?
Ma'am, there was one by Bharti Asma. She was asking, greetings, ma'am. I am a student of MSc Honors in Microbial Food Technology. I want to know about your journey after graduation in India.
Okay, that's what we're talking about. So hopefully you will get your answers here. If you don't, and you have more questions on this, Bharti, shoot me an email, or we can talk on WhatsApp. We'll find a way. So yes, after journey after graduation, it's going on. PhD done, first job in Florida. So now I moved from Arkansas to Florida. It's a Sunshine State. That's a picture of the rice drying facility and mill that I worked at. And here you will notice on the first slide that I showed you that I started as a quality auditor. What does that mean? That means that I'm responsible for auditing this facility and being the spokesperson for quality and food safety. All of you have some general knowledge that you learned through your bachelor's program, your master's program. Unless your PhD is on quality focus or food safety focus, you probably don't. You might have one course. So that's all the background that I had, even at that time. However, this company at that time had an opening for a quality auditor. And when they flew me down and I physically went there to interview, knowing kind of well enough that if I didn't mess it up too much, that job was going to be mine. Because again, the networking, the connections, when are you going to graduate? So I prepared myself nonetheless, which is key. You always prepare for everything. But this was, it is at that point, it is easy to get it. And it is harder to mess it up. If you do something silly or your culture doesn't match at all with the company, yes, maybe they'll say no, they'll retract the offer. If they see you're a safety hazard, yes. So when I went there, I asked my manager and I said, hey, I have a good background in research. I don't know too much about quality. I did all quality in my bachelor's. So you think I'll be able to do this? I want to learn, but I don't have experience. And she said, if you are willing to learn, I'll teach you the quality aspects, but we really need help with our operations. I want you to come in as a food engineer, but this is where our money is and this is where our job position is. It's a quality auditor. But I want you to come in as a food engineer, optimize our drying and milling process, rice drying, milling, kind of gave a makeover to our rice quality lab, figured out how we do rice testing, also worked on rice flour. So this mill actually makes brown rice, white rice, brown rice flour, and white rice flour. So all of those things. Now, my next transition was from Florida to Iowa. And this is a job that I seek for myself. I had worked there for about, I think 3.5 years by the time I actually, ended up leaving. And that's because from what was a new system in quality and food safety that I was constantly learning, I started getting comfortable. I built your HACCP plans, your hazard analysis at critical control points, your entire food safety programs, metal detection, X-rays. Can we have X-ray system? Are we in a position to make flour, and what markets can we sell our rice flour to? So if we don't have a kill step, then that rice flour, it cannot be sold in the baby food market, cannot be sold for any kind of application like sprinkling on donuts, where there is no critical control point after that. You don't have a kill step. So I wanted at that time for a bigger, better opportunity. And that's when I saw this job position show up on my LinkedIn profile. And I decided to go for it after conversations with my husband, who is very, very supportive, and decided, he was supportive enough where he quit his job in Florida to come with me to Iowa. And he's done that one more time when we moved to Ohio, which we get to in a moment. So a little bit about this factory. The first thing I want to talk about is people. Nothing can run if the people don't want it to, or if that's where we are not investing in. So the first thing is, and I want to hammer this over and over again, in the food industry, especially with Nestle Purina, safety is our value. So there is, yes, I am leading a department now, but I don't care about any quality check or any food safety check more than I care for the people. If somebody comes to work and they go home in a worse state, whether it's getting a cut on their fingers, worse still, it can be anything, all the way from a small little first aid all the way to an amputation. We are working with very heavy machinery. Any of those things. It is my first value and priority. That's why I don't even call it a priority, because priorities change. It's the value that we have for personal safety. They have to be safe first. This is a huge factory. It has about 75 buildings. It's actually a challenge. I got lost so many times because the buildings are interlinked and one floor leads to another different floor in another building. So it's built back in 1927 in Davenport, Iowa, and is the largest pet food producing factory in the world. They are absolutely sure, and they say it is in the US, but I've also heard from some people it might be the largest in the world, which doesn't surprise me. And then what I really liked about Purina, or I still like, is the fact that they have a management development program where they take people. You have to have certain skills to be, chosen, but they basically take new talent, like all of you students, and then develop them into future business leaders. If you look at job descriptions today, guys, sometimes it can be very annoying. You see, everyone's asking for 3-year experience, 5 years of experience. But if you don't start anywhere, where are you going to get that experience from? So I really like that part of Purina's business positioning to develop future leaders. And that's one of the things that drew me into this company. The picture on the bottom right here, these are pictures that I've taken from bags of food, dog food and cat food. So this appears on a certain brand, a certain line of dog food. And if you're wondering that they are pretty models who pose and take these pictures, that's not true. They are actual employees. So Nestle does this thing where they do a campaign and they say, hey, you want to be part of our advertising? That guy is Brian Cherry Holmes, and that's his dog. And they work in this factory. So same here. I don't know this associate's name, but also an associate from Purina. So those are the things that help you build culture. And I like that. My next move is, before we talk into that, we'll take a small little side road and talk about a transition in the pet food industry, which is what Dr. Mishra and I were talking about earlier. So this is all about, back in the day, dogs and cats dogs especially, were more treated like on the farm animal side. So it was feed, it was table scraps. It's what you don't want, you kind of give it to your dog. The US industry has become very different from that in the past decade or so. So we now started extruding pet food, and those are the extruded kibbles. And then now there is yet another transition. A lot of people went and adopted pets because they could stay home during the coronavirus. So unlike other industries, in general, the food industry is pretty recession-proof, and pet food seemed to be even more recession-proof because of this very phenomenon. So now we are trying to shift that focus from pet food even and saying it's food for pets or foods for pets. What I want to tell you is the same standards of quality and food safety that we do for human food is applicable to pet food. At the same time, as a human being, you eat many things and make your balanced diet. Your pet does not do that. He's only eating that kibble out of that one bag. So we've got to be really, really careful on nutritional verification. That has to be a complete diet and taking care of all your pet's needs. And now your pets are different. You might have a puppy. I might have a pet that's 15 years old, is a senior dog. Their needs are extremely different. All senior dogs are not the same. Somebody might have urinary tract issues. Others have digestive problems. That's where all this research and development into developing the right formulas go and play a part. These are just some names of the brands that we make. So these ones are, and they are not all. This is all public information. You can go to Purina's site and see them. And then on the right, I put some of the cat food brands. I did want to talk a little bit on quality, simply because I'm a quality professional and I thought you might be interested in it. Is 99 of our food for pets, 99% is made in the US. Food safety follows personal safety. So like I said, personal safety is the most important thing in my life. And after that, followed by food safety. If it has the remotest chance of making a pet sick, we do not want it. We cannot have it in our food stream. And then just to give you an idea of how much quality is ingrained in these processes, which sometimes it's hard to imagine, we have about 35,000 quality checks across all the factories in 24 hours. And then because Mother Nestle is governing us, and because we also absolutely have to take care of our planet, we've got these sustainability initiatives. And I didn't want to put a whole lot here, but one of the things I saw in Davenport, Iowa, in the factory when I worked, is that we do not send any of the production waste to landfills. And that's a lot. If you just think about office waste, restrooms, lunchroom waste, that's a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the production waste, which of course we are always trying to reduce as much as possible, try to have zero waste. But that doesn't happen. You have to do product changeovers. You have something wrong with the color of the kibble. You might have to, not be able to produce all of it, throw away some of it. But we have to make sure that we don't send anything to a landfill. We compost it all, which means that is a true cost that gets added on, because composting costs money. It's easier to send it to a landfill. But because of sustainability efforts and our commitment, we choose to not do that. So I think I've been talking for a long time. Do we have any questions at this point, Anas?
Ma'am, yes, we have two in the chat box.
Okay.
So one is from Jaipreet Singh. He is giving some background information about him and has a question. So he says, I'm Jaipreet Singh. I've completed his master's from food science from Central University of Punjab in 2018. And now he wants to join academia back in PhD. And he asks if there are any options abroad.
Yes, there are always options abroad. So first of all, congratulations for getting your master's degree. The way I did it was I just took the GRE and the TOEFL and applied to programs. I would highly recommend you to, this is something I did too, is read about people's research that you are interested in, figure out what you want to do or what you don't want to do, anything, and then try to, if you are emailing professors about vacancies, a lot of the professors say we have a vacancy in the lab or something, then you know that person's probably open to it. So start communicating with them. If you don't see that, then always, read enough. That's what I did. I read a lot. So that's what I would do after my general research days in IIT. I would spend time in the library or in the hostel, wherever, it doesn't matter. But read about the research and figure out who is it that you want to work with, and write them and ask them specific questions, and also specifically why you are interested. Don't send, I would really advise you to not send generic emails saying, I'm an eager student, please take me. Because they get many emails like that every day. Most professors do. So you've got to find a way, and that will come through reading and asking questions and thinking about their research, about asking and writing an email that stands out from the other 50 they receive. So that's how you would find. And then you can always apply to the school and look for opportunities. I had to look for funding opportunities. So, try those things. You might have to have a side job or so. But yes, there are opportunities. You just have to keep looking. Does that answer your question?
Good evening, ma'am. Can I have a question, please?
Sure. We had two questions, right? So let's finish the first. We finished the first one. Where's the second one?
And Sangeeta, your presentation talk is over?
No, I have a little more.
So it will be better that you complete your portion first.
Okay.
Then take the question answer. That will be nice.
Okay. Thank you. We'll do that. Okay, so now next job. Where are we going next? So I spent only from April to November in Iowa, and at the end of September, which was a secret at that point, so I was not allowed to share it, I got this opportunity where now here's some background. So when I interviewed in Iowa, I was told that assistant QA manager is to make me have the skills and for me to learn. And because Davenport is the oldest and the most complex factory, it's the flagship training facility. So you get trained and then you will get an assignment. And I was so happy to get this assignment. This next assignment is go to Ohio as the QA manager there for a factory that does not exist and go build this factory. So it is absolutely amazing. And I am so excited to be a part of this. I cannot tell you enough about it. But the ways these work is that I went through 3 rounds of interviews for my original job for Nestle Purina to enter the Iowa factory. And the plant manager at that time was my 4th round, so to say, 4th and last. And I had talked to him once, and then I had seen him once when I moved. Then eventually he got this opportunity as factory manager of this entire plant. The reason this is a digital drawing is because, you know, it's still being built. This is not a picture of the actual building. That's a digital drawing. That's how it's going to look. So we are in stages of building that. And back in the last week of September, close to October, is when I was given this opportunity. And of course I took it, because I said, yes, we'll go to a new place. I could have spent 40 years in my career and still not be able to build a new factory. So the very reason that you're telling me to build something from scratch is why I'm very excited and I want to do this. So it's a greenfield facility. Literally means that it is a field. To be beans. I think they used to grow red kidney beans. It might be a different type of beans, but which is dal basically, okay? It's some kind of dal pulses field that is now being transformed into this huge factory. And our biggest watch out for this factory is, how do we have the right culture? We're talking about taking, 300, 350 employees. Many of us right now, we are a very small team. It's basically the managers of each department that have been found. Some of still we're finding either internally or externally, we're recruiting. And so we have to build these programs. My responsibility would be building the quality and food safety program and the culture for the entire factory, as well as training. So we also plan to have a technical university here, which means that, traditionally, if you were an extruder operator, and we still do this, so let's say I am a new extruder operator. I get through my new hire orientation, HR, safety, quality, the basics, and then I basically shadow an existing and good extruder operator and learn the work from him. You have to realize this factory is going to be new. So now we're going to hire people off the street that have experience in maybe related manufacturing, but probably not in pet food. So how do we develop a robust training path and plan? Yes, we can send them to our sister factories. We can have people from there come and train. So those are all the kinks that we are working out and coming up with, robust plans on how we can make this a reality. It has to become a working factory producing well and equal, if not better, than any of the existing factories, and has to become bigger than an existing drawing or a digital picture that I just put over here. So a little bit more on the transition. So first thing I would like to talk about is the company culture. So you've got to figure out your company culture, got to figure out your team culture. Maybe most companies, corporates, very different from a factory. Different departments in a factory are different. Different factories are different. So figuring out this culture aspect is probably the most important transition piece that you will have, because you already have an academia culture built in. You know that. You do not know this part. Second part, office hours. As researchers, I remember I had full freedom. I could work whenever I wanted to. You can work in the lab if you want after hours, go get your stuff done at night. But now you are not working alone in a silo anymore. You work with teams. And so you've got to figure out how will you balance your life, and hopefully most of you will probably have families by this point. So you've got other obligations. It's not that the 24 hours of the day belong to you. So that's another piece of the transition. The next one is projects. So as a master's student or a PhD student, you have one thing, okay? You boil down your entire dissertation and it's one topic that you've got to be really good at. In the industry, it's many projects. How do you deal with prioritization? How do you figure out how you are going to put your resources, and then if you're a leader or a manager, your team's resources in these different projects or different directions? How are you going to manage all of them? The next one is you don't work alone. Something I learned, again, very strong research background. I know how to get things done myself. But in a company, you know a tiny little part of one thing, but you've got 10 other people that have to give their input to you to make this thing happen. So how do you interact with people? How do you work in a team is so important. We learned some of that in our lab work, where you're figuring out what hours in the lab you can run a machine. The centrifuge belongs to you from this time to this time. But this is a bigger scale on that. And then the last picture is, again, comes back to networking. I think we've talked quite a lot on networking and how important that is. That's pretty much the way a business runs. It's all about connections, networking. How can you work together in a team? How can you make people do the best that they do and make yourself do the best that you do? So next part, and I'll finish it up pretty soon, but I think this is very important. I did a little survey because I made this transition, from a PhD to working in a rice mill. I did this survey and I asked people that, you guys are industry professionals. You've done this for so many years. What do you find disappointing in fresh graduates? And I'm not going to apologize. I want to show you this, not to make you feel bad, dear students, okay? Idea is not to make you feel bad. The idea is to bring awareness to these things so that you just think about them a little bit more. These are things that I struggled with, okay? They happen to me. So they may or may not happen to all of you, but one or two of them will happen to you. So let's see what answers we got. I went and asked people in my company that I knew well, and I said, hey, will you give me some time? Let's do this. So they were honest and they gave really good feedback. I didn't put their names because I don't want to throw people under the bus, but just look at what the viewpoints were. This is not made up. This came from people in Florida Crystals, mostly, and a few people in Nestle Purina. So they said general lack of understanding, okay, of what? One, business goals. So fresh graduates don't know what the business goals are. Why are we doing it? If something is not profitable, not going to happen. So how do we design things? How do you start thinking about that aspect? Very similar to that, understanding the economics aspect. What are your return on investments? I could work on a project that is a brilliant idea on paper, but if I cannot put together the rupees, the dollars, what it means from a business perspective, it's not going to work. Speed of solutions, something I faced. I was very used to, because I'm trying to figure out optimization of drying methods and airflow velocities. I have a long time to think about it. Read a paper, read another paper, go find a reference. But in a business, they're looking for speed fast. They want it done. You want it done. So something to also think about. These are the ways they think, and this is the way an academic thinks. How do we transition over? How do we understand what language they're speaking? What works in academia may not work in the industry. This is very, very true. So we have pilot plant studies, okay, where we run it through, it's basically a mini factory. And there are so many formulas that are ran, so many ingredient substitutions that are done. And yet they have to be actually checked. The proof of concept needs to be checked in a running factory. Because when you scale up from, I don't know, you maybe ran 500 pounds or 250 kilos, the thing worked. And now when you think about the average production where you're making 100 tons, the equipment, just because it's a bigger extruder, does not mean everything else remains the same. Just because it's a bigger dryer, just because it's a bigger mixer with bigger pedals, doesn't mean it will scale up. So that's another thing I think very strongly about. Being able to link what a fresh graduate knows to what a company really needs. Also feedback from very senior members in the industry. So what are the company's near future goals? What is their goal today? What is their goal tomorrow? And this is where you have to work with cross-functional teams. You have to work with legal. You have got to work with sales and marketing. Where is the demand? What does the consumer want? I cannot make anything and hope to be successful if that's not what they want. This one was particularly hard, is letting go of a project and jumping onto the next one. So we are very well trained, and I am proud of that we can really stick to something. It's perseverance. If you ask me what is the one thing I learned during my PhD taught me how to think, and my PhD taught me how to stick to something and get that thing done. It's perseverance, hard work, and everything in between. So we have a hard time letting go, which is a problem in the industry, because in the industry, if you get red flags in the beginning telling you this is not going the right direction, or maybe you thought it would have a business goal and then the goal changed, then you kind of have to pivot at a very short notice. I did not think when I went to Iowa that I would be leaving that place in 6-7 months. I thought I'll work in that factory for some time, really learn. But then an opportunity came, and 6 months later, we're talking about moving again. That's one example again of that. A few more. Feeling of entitlement and interaction with fellow employees. So they said it's very important for us to know, especially when you're looking for that first job, is just because I have a PhD, really doesn't mean anything when I look for my first job. I'm going to work in quality auditing and food safety. I don't know how an FDA audit is done. I have no idea of a food safety inspection. So yes, I have a PhD, which means that I specifically know a lot about a very small thing. But what about all these other things? Unrealistic expectations. So I laughed when I heard this, because I think to a certain extent I have them too, and I still do. Also comes together and links the whole picture together. So in the industry, even now, at least in the US food industry, it's very much experience driven. What have you done? What gains have you got? It is not a degree. People that are much, much more senior to me and sitting higher up don't have a PhD. They don't even have a master's. But I can tell you, they know a lot more than I do and can get things done because they have that years of experience and they've worked through different real life projects. So I'm not trying to say don't be proud of your education. Be very proud. Very few people do that. But also be grounded. Understand that there is more to learn when you start working. Issues with prioritization of tasks. This one was a big one that I struggled with, and I tell you what I did. I also I tried my best myself. And then sometimes I went to my manager and I said, okay, you want 10 things, I want to do these 10 things. What order is the best? This is what I've tried. What do you think? The reason you try first is you don't want to be somebody who always brings up problems. You have to have solutions. So bring up your solutions. And then they will tweak it. They'll say, Sangeeta, I don't think maybe this you can do tomorrow. Work on that one today. So come up with a plan, but always be ready for somebody to tweak your plan. Ask for help. It's very, very important. Just ask for help. Expectation of having the latest technologies. One of the senior IT people told me this, that fresh graduates come and complain, why don't you have this app? Why don't you have that software? Well, you don't, because the company has to vet every single software. Actually, they have to vet every single update before the update is made on your work systems. So sometimes it looks like you're lagging behind, but you're not. In a way, it's the cost of doing business. It's just something you have to. And then this one, I think a lot of you are pretty strong at this, is about taking notes and not trying to wing it. That there are some people who think that they know it all. It's all in their head, and they will not take any notes. They'll not ask for any help. They won't bother to read a procedure, and they'll just go try to do it and then mess it up. From an operations standpoint, this is my very last one, excuse me. And I don't really know what the India food industry is right now. So, take this with a grain of salt, is about refusing shift work, weekend work, and working after hours. I am on call as a QA manager. I am on call all 24 hours. Doesn't mean that I have to be there all 24 hours, but I need to be accessible, and I need to have good cross-training in place where somebody is. If it's a food safety, because if it's a food safety issue or a quality that is coming up in the factory, remember the factory runs 24/7, most likely around 325 days a year. So that's a little difficult to understand in manufacturing if you've not done that before. It was hard for me. Still is sometimes, but I get through it. Now, students, time to think about something good. If everything was bad with us, they would have never hired us. So what are the positives that you see? And this is to make you realize that you are extremely valuable. You contribute. You contribute positively. That's why you're there. So let's see what the people said for this. I similarly did that survey, and I asked people, fresh set of eyes. This is very, very, very important. This is why fresh graduates are in demand. If you think about this as your personal experience, you see somebody every single day, you don't notice that much of a change. But if you see someone every few months, you will notice. Did they lose weight? Did they gain weight? Did they have a few more gray hairs than they had last time? Do they look a little not so healthy than they did last time? So same thing for operations, same thing for quality systems. It's the exact same thing. Is I can walk around my factory every single day and still miss certain things that could be improved, but my fresh graduate might be able to see that. 2, they can update present employees with latest advancements. This is a weapon you guys have. You have that latest technology, the latest research that's going on. So with those fresh set of eyes, we have fresh set of ideas. That's how they flow in. Strong desire to do more with the community. I have seen this very much. They really want a better work culture. What is a culture? That depends. We can go another few hours on that, so let's not. But they want a younger generation people, they want to contribute. They want to go volunteer at a dog shelter, not on company time, on their own time. And they want to do that. They want to go paint the wall of a school, because that's what they want to do. We've noticed this. They're very energetic and enthusiastic. Well, thank you. They're also very motivated. So obviously you are, because you're looking for the best opportunity you can get. You have that fire in your belly. You want to prove how good you are, how much you can contribute. That's a plus. You don't want sleeping people that are like, I don't care, do whatever. That's where the fresh graduates bring all that freshness in. They are great risk takers. One of my VPs told me this. They said, some graduates have a sense of fearlessness that might get lost once you do this for 20 years, 30 years. Because, some of it comes from that very inexperience that they have. So the fact that they don't have experience can also be a good thing. This is something I look for when I interview people. Now, you have to be careful and you have to have the correct guardrails. If I see, and I expect my leaders to do this, my manager to do it to myself. If I come up with an idea and my manager said, this does not work for these reasons, you've got to keep those guardrails in. So yes, you have to have somebody who can do that. But also, most of the time, these fresh graduates will think in a different dimension that you didn't think about. They are very happy to do different tasks at the same time. So think about yourselves. Your professor tells you to do something and then tells you the next day, do this for me. Aren't you just happy to take and run with it? That's the part that industry likes. And this is my very last piece. I got an equation from the VP of Agriculture at one point. And the equation is, you can see it on the screen. The V is value. The value that an employee brings to that company or the industry is a summation of their skills and knowledge. That's the S and the K. But you might have a lot of that. What really differentiates you from all those other people is the A, and that's attitude. It's with a star or a multiplication. Anything gets multiplied by 0, what happens? So there is no value if the attitude is bad. You have to have the right attitude. Now, what is the right attitude? It's a willingness to learn. That's how I define it. There are many other people, many other definitions. My pet peeve definition for myself is a willingness to learn. What do you do to help that and make that happen? Are you happy? Are you energetic? Do you want to do this? Most things I can teach anybody at any time, but is that anybody wanting to do it? With that, I will end it. That's my picture, giving out busy bones, which is a treat from Purina to dogs at the farmer's market in Iowa. And I want to end my talk at this point and say a big, big, big thank you to FTCL for organizing this, for Anaz and Mona Lisa for putting it all together, Dr. Mishra for helping me and inviting me and letting me spend this beautiful Saturday morning for me, Saturday evening for you. And of course, thank you to all of you who are here, because you chose to listen to this when you could have probably done more exciting things. And I very, very much appreciate it. I'll stop sharing so we can see more and talk more. One moment, please.
Yes. Great, Sangeeta, very nice presentation. In fact, excellent. Motivated. Good. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now there are certain questions. I think they will read for you.
Yes.
The questions are general.
So there's one question by Swati Gupta. She's asking, hello ma'am, this is Swati Gupta. I am pursuing BSc Agriculture and I want to know what are the works you have to do as a manager there?
What do I have to do? Okay. Hi, Swati. Thank you for that question. So what do? I lead people. Right now, I don't do anything because I don't have people. I am building a new factory. So I have to will be, what will they do? How do I develop a training plan for all of them? How do I develop the quality system? So what is your HACCP plan going to look like? What is your food safety inspection going to look like? How will you collect the data? How will you record the data? Where will you put it? What do you do when the FDA, which I will ask over here, Mishra sir, what is the equivalent of the FDA in over there? Like
FDA, Food and Drug Authority Administration, Food and Drug Administration.
Yes, but what is it in India?
FSSAI.
Okay. So what if they show up for an inspection? As a quality manager, that is your role, is to have every system on food safety in place so that you do well in an inspection. Pest control, I actually have to do that. Not I directly do that, but I am responsible for the planning. What is my pest manager? Very recently, my factory manager had to go and work on permits because you have to figure out, we have some trees at the back of the property and they are supposedly roosting places for 3 endangered species of bats. Okay, so you got to work on all those systematic pieces. A lot goes on in food production that we don't normally think about. So those are all would be tasks. Risk assessments. Every new piece of equipment you get, you do a food safety risk assessment. Where are the risks? Where can you have, so the organism over here for my industry now is Salmonella. How do I make sure that the kill step is enough for there to be no Salmonella in the finished product? So these are all the things that my team is responsible for. We do zoning. So you have to make sure, let's say packaging. Packaging is after extrusion, right? You put the product in a packet, it goes out. So do you have the right zoning plan where people are not going in and out of raw material areas to packaging? You never want that to happen. And yet in a factory, sometimes that will happen. So what mitigation measures are you going to put? Where will you put the hand washing stations? Where will your boot washing stations be? What tests and how will you do for the ingredients that are coming in? So a pet food factory will typically have about, for what we make, maybe 130-ish ingredients. So what are the testing plans for all of them? This is all of the stuff that I do with help from many people. Okay, I'm not trying to say I do all of this, but with help from many people. These are the things that we do.
Thank you very much, ma'am, indeed, for that answer. And we have one more from Arpan Kotal. He is asking that he's a final year student of MSc Microbiology, Central University of Sikkim. And he wants to know about the job opportunities abroad related to the food industry.
This is a very hard question. Job opportunities. A lot of times it comes down to what you can get a job in. A lot of times it is simply governments, visa requirements, work visas, that sort of thing. Companies in the US have to show that, and I don't know this part very well because I don't deal with HR and legal, so I don't want to misspeak. But the job description should tell you somewhere whether internationals are allowed to apply or not, or whether you need a work visa to do that. In other words, is the company having to sponsor you, or do you have sponsorship yourself? So those are the things that you would have to navigate to get jobs. It's not just getting a job and applying for it. I don't know if that completely answered your question, but that is a complex topic that I think you need to talk to many people and ask for them, and then also read the legal guidelines behind it and figure that out. I came to the US on a student visa because of the PhD program. That allowed me to work 20 hours a week. So that's how I started working.
Thank you very much, ma'am, indeed, for that answer.
Thank you.
And yeah, so we have one more from Prajya Arya. She's asking, hello, ma'am, can we lower down the price of products for pet supply?
I'm sorry, what? Tell me again, please.
Yes, ma'am. So she's asking that if there's a possibility for lowering down the prices of the pet food products.
Yes, I'm sure. That's what the goals are all the time, is make more and optimize costs all the time. The real question is, how do you do it? So the more, we talk about these fancy terms on, let's say, one extruder running, how much output can you get? What can you put? What does the market need at that point, Prajya?
Good evening, ma'am. Myself.
So it's also a very complex issue. Is yes, it has to be cost effective for the consumer, but you've also got many kinds of consumers. Okay, so people who are economically able or not able, and then there are people who are able, but they will not hear that you can take your dog and get them two fancy ponytails here, but do you want to do that? There are people who do. There are others
who agree with you.
Same thing.
But my small query is also there. Can we have one platform which can introduce pet food to all the pets? It's not like a particular breed. It could be eligible for the local breeds and for the branded breeds also. Can we have such kind of system? And it's not only in US. Can we have this in the entire world? Is there something like that we can introduce?
I really am not sure about this, because the Nestle Purina brands that we make, they are not for certain breeds. They can be for, they are mostly about, what kind of animals are before or after a certain weight and age and dietary restrictions that can eat it. So it's not that I make up a certain dog food, say dog food A, for German Shepherds only. That's going to be a very niche market, but they are for others too.
Usually, drools are not supposed to be consumed by the pet. Is there any specific reason for the drools?
Is there what? Droons?
Drools, yes, ma'am, drools.
Spell it out for me, please.
DROOLS, drools.
Okay, I do not even know what they are. So,
okay.
Hold on while I Google
Thank
that.
you. Maybe. Yes, ma'am. Indian breeds, as I also have a pet, and our pet veterinary person suggests to try not to feed the drools to your dog. So
I don't know,
he
because
suggested that it might.
I don't know, because the formulations we have are proprietary, and I don't work on the formulation
Is it
side.
a local brand of pet food or what?
No, sir. It's a branded brand, drools, just like pedigree. But our vet person said, "Ki try not to feed your dog with drools. It might damage the digestive system of your dog." I also have a German Shepherd.
Do you have any idea that what is it made of and how it is?
Sir, I didn't got into the details, but yes, many people suggested try not to feed drools. So that's why I asked if might be there is some specific reason. Everybody is suggesting that pedigree is good or dog canine is DC is good, but why drools are in the very lower markets? That's why, like, I just put a question.
I just googled drones and I don't even see anything come up. So I'm not. They're showing me drones, but they're not drones.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just switching the camera and I can give you a look of it. This is drools. Can you please have a look?
Oh,
Those-
DROOLE. Okay, so this might be a certain brand that your vet is saying don't feed them,
And
right?
then also you see that what is the composition of that brand. There must be something.
Yes, or sometimes it might be that the vet is basically a doctor, just like you go to a doctor, your dog goes to a vet, and your doctor might say, don't eat, I don't know, the best example would be, the doctor might say, हाँ आप अभी से पालक साग और टमाटर खाना छोड़ दीजिए और तब आपका यूरिक एसिड बेटर हो जाएगा ऐसा. It could be something like that, or it could be something in that formulation that the vet thinks is affecting your dog in the nutritional. Remember, I said it has to be over 100. Many ingredients come together to make that formula. So maybe there are some ingredients that are missing with your dog's digestive system, and so he thinks if you change the diet, that might help.
Okay.
Would you say
Thank
that?
you so much, ma'am. Pardon, ma'am?
No, I said I was asking. What does Mishra sir think about that? Do you think?
Okay.
I think it's in the formulation. It's something that the vet thinks is not
In
good.
the formulation are specific to that your dog. There is some.
Yes, possible. Yes, because
Mm.
they're just
Thank
like
you, sir.
human beings. They don't do well. Like a lot of our consumers will feed a certain thing.
It is being produced by some company, and company normally they go for a wider market. So definitely there are market than only the company producing. Maybe your dog that may be sensitive to this type of food. That may be. Sometimes it happens due to one or the other reason. Because one day I had some indigestion. My doctor has advised me not to take milk as well as wheat. For the last 10 days, my life has become hell. What should I say? कि अगर दूध भी नहीं खाओ, दूध का कोई प्रोडक्ट नहीं खाओ और हीट नहीं खाओ.
Gluten free बन जाओ, हाँ, right? Exactly. Yes.
रोटी.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you, ma'am.
Rice. So, and in fact, we don't like that much rice. We are the wheat
Right.
chapati.
People, yes. Actually, take the question back to your vet. Take a picture of the ingredients that are there, like the bag, and say, what is it? Why do you not want me to feed drool? Or it could be that drool is maybe they have food safety incidents where he thinks it's unsafe, but because you said digestive issues, I think it's something to do with ingredients. So ask him why he thinks like that.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so I think since we are now into the technical line and a bit away from the track of career perspectives, so I'll take another technical question from our audience. So Mr. Vikas Kumar would like to know that fortified rice produced from extrusion can be used in pet food products. I think he wants to know that can it be used, the fortified rice products, which is produced through extrusion. So is there a possibility?
Depend करता है कि वो pet food को like करेगा कि नहीं. There is no reason why it cannot.
Depends on what you put, in how much you put, and what your palatability and acceptability studies say. Exactly what Mishra sir said right now. So what Purina has, we have a separate team of, they are behind the formulation research.
जस्ट आज का मैं एक एग्जांपल बताता हूँ. यहाँ हम लोगों के यहाँ रास्ते में कुछ हमने पपीज दिए हैं, 3-4 छोटे पपीज हैं. ऑलराइट, तो उनको बच्चे लोग जाके कुछ भी देते रहते हैं. तो टुडे व्हेन वी वेंट फॉर मॉर्निंग वॉक, तो एक दो दिन टुडे आई कैरीड सम बिस्किट्स. तो जब वहां गए तो देखा पहले से ही प्लेंटी ऑफ राइस वहां पर पड़ा हुआ है और एक बिस्किट भी ब्रिटानिया का पड़ा हुआ है. कोई वो सब बच्चे खा नहीं रहे थे. हमने कहा रे मैं तो बिस्किट लेके आया, खाएंगे नहीं. बट दैट वाज ए स्पेशल सम अदर कंपनी. फिर भी हमने कहा चलो देते हैं, और उसको दे दिया और सब झपट के खाए. दे वर ऑल हैप्पी. और उसके बाद हम थोड़ा लेके गए थे. टुमारो आई विल टेक सम मोर. ऑलराइट, एंड दे वर जस्ट, हम जब जाने लगे तो सब कूद के दे वर छोटे पपीज हैं. तो दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. दैट इज व्हाट दे लाइक. सो अदर fortified rice we are giving, but rice it has to be made in a farm which is liked by that animal, which is liked by the pet.
Yes, and it cannot be only rice, because it has to have all the ingredients that they need.
Even sometimes the farms, because they are prone to eating a particular type of the food, particular texture of the food, their particular taste of the food. So वो सब थोड़ा देखना होगा. That's what initially we were discussing कि कम से कम human food में तो ये है कि we can get the response from the respondents. But यहाँ पर animal में तो वो भी नहीं पता चलता है. But we have to definitely use our perception, our knowledge. So I see no reason why fortified rice produced by Extrusion keep away that micronutrient part that we are adding into the fortified rice. All right, you talk about fortified, that is the rice, prepare reconstituted rice made by the Extrusion technology that can be made into a farm which will be liked by eaten by the pets. So some formulation need to be developed and it should be accordingly processed.
Yes, I can tell you this much, that rice is an ingredient. It is used in very small quantities, different formulations, but several of them have it.
Yeah.
And the best way you can figure out is go to the grocery store, look at some pet food bags, read the ingredients. It will be written. Yes.
Yes, Anas, good.
Yes, sir. So there are more questions coming in, ma'am. So I'll take the technical ones.
Sangeeta is very popular. Good.
Yes.
Now it's very popular among the audience.
Thank you. I'm happy.
Good.
Yes, sir. Ma'am, Hridesh, sir, he's asking a question that what specific quality characteristics are being checked for pet foods in terms of texture, etc. And what are the other way of producing pet food other than extrusion?
Other than extrusion, I don't know, because I am very new in the pet food market here and I'm still learning Nestle's ways. I am telling you that this here is extrusion. The others, I don't know. You were asking about quality checks. So I am not able to give you the exact checks because that is something that Nestle owns, and I am not I'm not authorized to speak about it. But I can tell you some generic ones which you would think about for anything else. That would be proprietary information, so I cannot share it. I'm sorry. What I can share is things like moisture content. Okay, if you have too much moisture, that gives a shelf life issue. So those generic checks. The size of the kibble. If it's too small, you have too much dusty stuff left on the bowl, the pet will not like it. If they're too big, that might be a choking hazard. You have density checks. If they're not the right density, it's not going to pack into a bag the right way. Too low, a consumer wants to get uniform, acceptable product every single time. So everything you do, I should not, as a consumer, be able to find a difference between a bag produced in Davenport, Iowa, and a bag from one of our other factories, let's say in Arizona. So all those quality checks have to be monitored so that never happens. The color. Now, here is a big part of the pet food industry. And I'll put this back on our audience. Who do you think my customer is? Who is my customer in the pet food industry? Just shout out a few answers. I just want to hear what you think.
Cats and dogs, perhaps horses sometimes.
I see a reply showing up from Pragya. Cats and dogs. And so this is where it gets really complex. My customer is the pets, obviously, but also
and the consumers.
Those pets. So if Pragya doesn't like what she sees when she's pouring out her bag to give it to her dog, she's not going to go buy that product next time. If she likes it, but her German Shepherd does not eat it, she's not going to buy that either. So now I've got two sets of customers that we are trying to please at the very same time. That's what
Rightly
makes
said.
this complex.
Rightly said, ma'am. My both includes the consumers, sorry, the owner of the pets and the pets too. Yes.
Yes, yes. So quality checks would also be on receiving ingredients. There are ingredients that we will not accept. We check on a truck by truck basis. Again, I cannot give you those details because it's proprietary information, but it does not come up to the standards of what we outline from our approved vendors. First of all, they have to be approved vendors. I just can't go buy rice from anybody.
Dr. Pandey has asked another question, Sangeeta. Dr. Pandey has also asked, what is your viewpoint on pet food industry in India?
I don't know enough about pet food industry in India. because I am Dr. Pandey. The truth is, I have been to India a few times, and every time I go, my top priority is to meet with my parents, my relatives, my friends, even IIT, my professors. So I don't spend any time in a grocery store looking for what the pet food market is even there. And I got the job in April. So after April, I haven't even gone there. I really just don't even know.
I think that Praja Arya, she can throw some light on it.
Yeah, definitely, sir. As if I am a very, very pet lover person. And whenever I
थोड़ा video open करो. I think pet food industry is a blooming industry in India as well. अभी जो पेट फूड के एनिमल्स के डॉक्टर्स जो है, पर्टिकुलरली डॉग इत्यादि के डॉक्टर्स इत्यादि हैं, दे आर, उनका बिजनेस तो बहुत ही अच्छा है. ह्यूमन डॉक्टर से दे आर समटाइम हाईली पेड. So similarly, pet food industry also, I think it is a rising industry in India.
Yes.
अभी आप देखो, more and more pet lovers, people are turning into that is animal lovers and pet lovers लोग रख रहे हैं. तो अभी that is, yes, I think let's listen to Pandey ji and also Praja Arya.
Yeah, thank you, Sangeeta, for a nice presentation. Actually, we have a startup. He is working on developing pet food, and he is also selling his pet food in US and other countries. He is carrying out. He is preparing it from the milk, and his food, that particular pet food, it is quite hard. It is this like a bone. It is made from milk only, but it is similar to that of the this in texture. It is very hard, similar to that of bone. And pet, they probably like it because pet have a tendency to this, specifically dogs. They have a tendency to chew this bones, and they get a feeling similar to that of the bone. So that's why I was just asking this. What are the textural aspects with regard to that? Other thing, maybe you can have give idea with regard to this market, specifically in what is the future or something like that, so that we can have a little bit of idea with regard to that.
The US future looks pretty good right now. Like I said, I switched from human food to pet food in April 2021. So I'm very new, still learning a lot. And it's very nice and almost eye-opening to see how much variation there is. So just like we have canned, all kinds of canned fish and canned different things, there is an entire section that is dry food business, and then which is where I work. And then there's the other part that I don't have any idea about except what I see is the entire wet food market. So that's the entire canning industry. So canned food, आपका बिल्ली का जो canned food होता है, there are so many kinds of recipes. It's not just one can. There are like 1,000 recipes on that, and what they have. So yes, the market itself looks pretty good. That's the organic growth that US pet food industry is seeing. Going back to what I just told you during the presentation, is COVID seems to have brought a big hike because people now started, they could work from home, or they had to work from home. However, it is only for certain jobs. You have to understand that. Like, I have worked in a factory all my life, and I went to work every single day. I have not worked from home. I think the total I've worked from home in these 3 years has been maybe 3 weeks. So I go to a factory every single day, and the reason is, as a leader, I can do all my work. I can actually work on a computer all day, no problem. But how do you implement quality and food safety if you and your team are not there on the floor, and you are expecting those people who are the line operators, they cannot do their work. Who's going to run the extruder if they are not there? So from a cultural standpoint, this is something that I feel very strongly about myself. I have leaders that think one way or the other. That's okay. My personal opinion, if I expect my people to be out there, then I better be out there. And if I don't expect that, then, well, we all stay home, and that's not going to happen. So guess what? We take safety precautions. You do what you have to do. We put more mitigation measures. We build more safety protocols. You build more walls, more physical barriers. Do those things. But you cannot say, I'm a manager, I sit at home while you go make my food and put it in a packet. I'm sorry, we digressed a little bit on that, but yes, during COVID, that demand went up a lot.
Good. So, there is the next question, Anas.
Yes, sir. We have one from Nitya Michael. She's from our lab only, ma'am, a research scholar. And she's asking, hi, ma'am. It's a wonderful presentation. I would like to know how the sensory analysis is conducted for pet foods and how it's scored.
We have a team of dogs and cats that do that. I have not been to that research facility. There are 2 research facilities. They are these, just like you do sensory analysis in human beings. This is sensory analysis for.
How do they, Sangeeta? How do they record the response? By photo?
No, I have never seen the recording. A lot of the response is also done from blood tissue sampling, from brain imaging. You have to figure out what the dog thinks, and I've not seen this done. I've only heard, so I will tell you what I have heard. But
sometimes I heard that they also, after it is given, then they will take their face photographs. But then how do they?
I'm sure they do that too. Yes, I'm sure they do. They do a combination of many things to come up with, do they like it? And then we are, if you write on a label claim saying this is good for your, maybe it's like anti-dandruff shampoo. If they write this gets rid of 99% of dandruff, you actually have to do those trials and write it. You just can't put it on a label. So yes, so if you're talking about this is a veterinary diet that improves urinary tract infection in such and such. So you've got to get
that is the clinical trial we do also in the human food. That is altogether a different thing. But their question was sensory. Sensory means that is
right. Sensory yes. So
because in the human we just sense organ of senses and we express that.
Yes.
The question is, I think Pragya want to.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I have actually visualized this situation in my life. Once I went to IVRA, that is Indian Veterinary Research Institute, near to my place, and there is scientist, Dr. Abhijit Pavle, residing from Mumbai, and he was actually demonstrating a new type of food and having the responses of the dogs especially and German Shepherds only, because in India there is a recent trend of growing the breeds of German Shepherds, and there is a lot of cost we have to pay for buying a German Shepherd pup. So he was telling us from where we can see the sensory responses in a particular dog. Is he or she is liking the food? The tail wagging and the ear movement is a very fine thing which we can observe very closely in a dog, if he or she is liking a particular food or not. And the movement of the nose is very precisely observed in the sensory evaluation of a particular food for a particular
movement of the tail
dog.
Is there also tail movement? Is also
Tail, ears, and the nose.
Yes.
Initially, they
Yes.
begin with the nose, then lowering down the ears as the moment they like the food. And while as the moment food is entering to their gut, their tail is starting to wag like this. So this is the one
Yes.
side thing which I learned
Interesting.
from IVRA.
Very
Yes,
interesting.
yes.
Very interesting.
Very, very, very
Now,
interesting. Yes.
yeah, Sangeeta, in fact, you see now we see here Mr. Vasudev Rao Ayappa. He is very senior person, our friend from Pantnagar. I am very delighted that you made this thing such interesting that he joined, and today we are, I think, seeing each other face to face after several years. Rao Saab, yes.
Very nice.
Do you have any comment or questions? We studied together at Pantnagar.
Oh, okay.
He was, I think, 1 or 2 years. He was PP Srivastava's batch, na? You were Rao Saab, I was senior. PP Srivastava's senior. You are muted. You are muted. Please unmute and then speak. Rao Saab, unmute and then speak. There is some problem. Siddharth Aranas, can you unmute him?
Sir, I don't think there's.
No, sir. No, we cannot unmute from our end.
Okay. Anyway, in the meantime, you take other question by the time he's.
Yes, ma'am, there's one question by.
Sir, he is unmuted.
Yes, now he's unmuted. Yes, हाँ भाई.
Thank you.
Rao Saab,
Thank you.
बताओ. Very
Thank you,
nice
sir.
to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
How are you?
I am fine. I am fine. Would you like to comment something on Sangeeta's lecture? In fact, she has been our student. Now
Yeah,
she is working in US.
it's a good learning. Good learning.
Yeah. I am also learning.
Yeah. It's a continue.
Particularly today we learned that.
It's nice lecture.
Yeah. Sensory evaluation कैसे करते हैं? It was really interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
For asking this question. Yes. Now take other questions. Anas.
Yes, sir. So there is one question by Ms. Momita Ghara, and she's asking that, ma'am, she's a quality assurance manager in seafood industry with around 5 years of experience, and she wants to know about opportunities for her in the United States.
Nice. Well, congratulations, Momita. That's very impressive. For 5 years, worked in the seafood industry. Again, opportunities depend on, if you're specifically looking at the US, it depends on what companies you're interested in and whether it comes down to the legal aspects of working here. So
Anas, what you do now, if there is any technical question, we will take. Otherwise, personal questions, because someone has asked, कितने साल बाद हम quality manager बनेंगे?
I can answer this right now, no problem. Technical, non-technical, everything is welcome. कितने साल बाद आप quality manager बनोगे? ये
बने हो. They have asked you became a quality manager after how many experience in this?
This is my first time being a quality manager. I showed that I was an assistant quality manager in Davenport. So I started working as quality auditor, then became a supervisor.
साल का experience पूछ रहा है, but basically he's asking how many years experience is needed for that, for becoming a quality manager.
4, 5. Just add up those numbers. Yeah.
4 to 5 years. That's good.
But that doesn't mean anything. What I'm trying to say is, because you worked in 5 years, you will not become a manager. Because you worked 10 years,
and
you will
even
not become a manager.
after 1 year, also one can
You
become
cannot-
manager.
Yes. Look at the age of whoever is the CEO of Google right now.
That's true.
Okay, so we are all behind compared to that guy.
We wish Sangeeta becomes one the CEO of the Nestle pet food.
As it. Sure, why not?
Well said, sir.
Yes, why not? Good.
So I can tell you about the present CEO of Purina. She's a lady. Her name is Nina Lee Kruger, and I read about her. She started in marketing, and this was when the cat litter business was going down, and there was a time when Purina was going to have to take a hard call and shut off all factories that made cat litter. Cat litter is that sandy material that they dig, you know. So Nina Lee went to the marketing team. She was from the marketing team, and I've only read the story. Like, she's way high. I'm not trying to tell you I sit and have coffee with her. Okay, I've never seen her. The story is that she went to the R&D people, which generally sales never talks to R&D, right? We all know that. Never. They're very different. She went to these people and said, hey, the problem we have is if we cannot make this much money out of this thing, this brand, this litter business, we might actually step out. So what ideas do you all have? What do you think are our roadblocks, and how can we solve it? And then these researchers went back and came up with what is called there are several things, but one of the things I read about that I remember right now, and please excuse me if I'm misquoting it, because again, this is just general reading I do on my own time. I think it was about lightweight litter. So some scientists came back and said, the litter we produce now is so heavy that our consumers cannot haul it and take it. So we need to make something that is lightweight, and I think will increase. So they made several changes in that product line, and the litter business grew from being something that's going to be cut out from the business portfolio. This is why Nina Lee is the CEO, okay? She led a marketing team at that time that changed that and made the litter business $1 billion business in 1 year's time. So how many years you want to be a manager? Not the question. What do you do?
Well said, ma'am.
Thank you very
This
much.
is the concept of understanding the market strategies and putting them into the company to make the business and the benefits to the mankind and the society.
Yes, and understanding that my strengths are not my strengths. My strengths are the greater team strength. If she did not go and ask, they had these solutions. They probably weren't just being heard. They were told work on A, B, C, D. So they worked on A, B, C, D, and they weren't getting the results. They were not asked, what do you think we should work on? So sometimes that's where I am very pro, even more than the technical side. I am more pro on be open to other people's ideas. You never know, that idea might be what changes everything.
That's true. That's true. Good.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good interaction. And the questions itself speak about the quality or interest which you generated among the audience. That's good to Sangeeta. Great.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That was indeed a very dynamic and very amazing presentation which we had. And I think, just as you said, that it was a Saturday evening for all of us here, and we had better things to do. I think this was the best thing to do this evening.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. That is so flattering to me. Thank you.
Sangeeta, I think you are aware, this thing we are doing for the last 1 year, that is this is the
Yes.
outcome of the COVID. So these
Yes.
students, when they were not here, then we started these things, and every alternate Saturday we are organizing one such lecture. And
I think I have been to some of them, and I congratulate you and your team for doing this, because this is probably where you learn the most. Like you said, you can have a book and you can read it. It's very, very important for this interaction.
And everything is managed by my team. Not I don't do anything. Everything they are managing, and you must have experienced also that they will contact the speakers. But sometimes they will come and ask me, sir, please give me a list of the potential person to whom we should contact. Because they might have it. So I give the list, and then they go on doing the things. And more interesting, important thing is all these recordings are available on our lab websites, in the YouTube, etc. So in our FCTL lab website, I think it is 33rd lecture this time, or 35th?
33rd.
33rd. So all 33 recordings are available. So anytime anyone can see on the YouTube.
That's very, very nice. Very nice.
Very good. So we are creating a pool of knowledge resource, versatile knowledge resource that is there in the open public domain. So that is
Yes.
of this. So,
I really do appreciate,
Yeah.
and I absolutely love this thing that
And
you all are all doing.
what you told
And-
very rightly, many things even I have learned at this stage, because learning is a never-ending process. So we learn
Yes.
from all these interactions. जो कि 10 किताब पढ़ के नहीं समझ में आता है कभी-कभी, वो एक आधे घंटे के बाद सुनने में आ जाता है, 10 मिनट के बाद। लाइक जैसे अभी सेंसरी इवैल्यूएशन वाला क्वेश्चन था, व्हाट प्रज्ञा ने बताया, अभी
हम लोग को नहीं बात हुई,
इस इमेज का है, और कभी-कभी हमें थोड़ा सा आइडिया थे कि पूछ में भी जैसे देखिए कुछ डॉग्स जब आते हैं व्हेन दे लव यू, तो उनका इवन पूछ जो हिलाते हैं और आ जाते हैं। बट द कान वाला पार्ट जो उन्होंने बताया, रियली इट वाज ए नॉलेज एनरिचिंग टू मी आल्सो एज वेल।
Yes, yes.
इट इज गुड कि फेस इमेज देखता है, कान देखते हैं, देन पूछ। गुड, यस। हाँ जी, मुखोपाध्याय जी, बाबा किचु बोलबेन बेटी के, बाबा आप म्यूट আছে, म्यूट, अनम्यूट, अनम्यूट, अनम्यूट मैडम। नहीं, आप अनम्यूट करके बोलिए, कुछ सुनाई नहीं दिया।
Thank you, Dr. Mishra, for organizing and inviting Sangeeta to speak. It was really a very good interactive session. Thanks a lot.
गुड। संगीता के ऊपर जितना अधिकार आपका है, उतना ज्यादा अधिकार हमारा है। आई होप संगीता विल एग्री।
Absolutely, yes.
Definitely, you have more than
नहीं,
us. We are spirit.
फादर मदर को तो nobody can replace father mother, but yes, we also have the right. Yes. In fact, हमें अभी भी याद है, अभी रिसेंटली कुछ काम था, तो जब जा रहे थे जिस दिन, हमारे ऑफिस रूम में एक छोटा सा व्हाइट बोर्ड है।
अच्छा,
will you tell what did you do on that white board?
I don't remember. What did I do? I drew something, I think. No?
एक छोटा सा पूरा एकदम से व्हाइट बोर्ड को अपना स्केच पेन लेके पूरा ड्राइंग, और उसमें एक छोटी सी बच्ची का उधर बनाया, और उधर एक बड़ा सा, और जिसका सर बहुत बड़ा उसने बना दिया। तो उसने दिखाया कि जस्ट नीचे कुछ लिखा था कि सर आपने एक बच्चे को, और यू हैव मेड सो बिग दैट यस व्हिच आई एम गोइंग, particularly when she was going to US, that do you remember? और
now I little remember a little bit.
2-3 साल तक वो वहां पर पड़ा हो रहा। पीपल यूज्ड टू, जो लोग आते थे देखते थे क्या है, अभी कुछ और ओकेजन था, तो आई रब्ड इट अप।
Thank you for everything.
thanks.
Very
Thank you to all the other members for listening, for asking questions. Everyone, each and everyone. It was a good, very, very good interactive session.
Proud, worthy daughter of worthy parents. Yes, great. ठीक है जी, now let's go.
Thank you very much again, students. I think we don't thank you enough most of the time. Thank you for doing everything you do.
Yeah. Something is still beginning. They will.
Yeah. So before we formally conclude and move on, then I would like to invite Mr. Ankit Rathod for a formal vote of thanks.
Okay, good evening to everyone and my dear seniors. It gives me immense pleasure to propose vote of thanks for this 33rd lecture of FCTL webinar series. I wholeheartedly thank our speaker, Dr. Sangeeta Mukhopadhyay, for sharing vast knowledge that from this scratch, like you made us aware about the power of networking, and through your presentation, you made us walk through the way, like how you switched from the PhD to being a quality auditor at the rice drying plant, and then how you moved to finally to OEO. Now, showed us the importance of formulation of pet foods and its challenges, and then how to manage a smooth transition from academia to industry, and finally restored our confidence with the positives that can be seen in fresh graduates. All this with an incomparable patience. I express my heartfelt gratitude to our mentor and coordinator, Professor N Mishra sir, for providing us the opportunity to gather knowledge in areas of expertise of our seniors via this webinar series platform. Finally, a big thanks to audience and all the seniors who found out time and participated enthusiastically in this webinar series to grace this session with their presence. We expect similar, in fact, more response for our upcoming lectures. In the end, once again, thank you everyone who directly or indirectly participated and gave their valuable presence for success of this webinar.
Thank you so much, Ankit. That was, it told me that you listened and listened actively. Thank you so very
The
much.
session was so interactive, like each second of it was full of knowledge and information. And I believe that it will be helpful for all of us fresh graduates, even in the research or those who are going to be a part of industry today or in the near future. Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. That is my hope. And let me know if I can help in any other way. I would love to.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you to
Thank
one
you,
and all.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's wonderful.
Thank you to one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Mishra and everybody.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Razam. Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening. Please do
Yeah,
come
hope-
again. The next
Fine,
webinar.
fine. Hope all are safe.
Yes, sure, definitely.
Yeah, convey my regards to all of your family.
Sure. That's,
Yeah, a very nice
Abhi to-
meeting, and it's a good learning.
Yes.
It's a nice webinar, and I hope all webinars will be published in a book form.
We will try at least that we discuss sometime in the book form at least, and the presentation if you can in the CD, if you can record all those things and bring out in
Yeah.
CD, because the book form editing etc. we have to contact all the speakers and then, but whatever is there, definitely I
Yeah.
think FCTL Anas,
Yes, sir.
I think this
Yeah.
is a very good suggestion.
Yeah.
Like earlier also there was a similar suggestion like this. So if we can compile all this
Document. One document.
and one document and have a CD made out
Yeah.
of it, and then CD can be again made public and our FCTL web page in one folder we can upload all those things.
Yeah,
So,
document in print form.
yeah. And then if possible we will also go for a printed form.
Very good.
It will be
Thank you
really-
very much.
Yes, sir. That's indeed a very
एक दो लोग मिलकर जरा इस पर काम करना शुरू करें. We'll do.
Okay.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you, your team.
Thank you all.
Have a
Thank
nice
you
day.
all. So, fine.